structure, including the House committees,
all of
on
them,
police.
all of them.
They have an idea of what's going on.
The House, the Executive, and even.
What about the Ministry for Police Affairs?
The major battle now is on.
Because you know that's relatively new compared to other ministries in the country, and one would have thought that with the coming of that ministry, the police would have been better off than it was before.
Well, the ministry has always been there. It's just in one administration it will be scrapped, in another one it will be merged with another agency and all that. But you've always had a police council, either as a department, the Ministry of Interior or Home Affairs, in overseeing the police. And it's actually part of the problem, because the only thing the ministry does is budgetary oversight on the police, which means spend the money of the police. They're actually the ones that award the big contracts in the police force, not the police chief.
Do you think that if things are reformed, I mean, if things are standardized, we could get to a stage where people will be willing to join the police force and pay some part of for their own training, especially if they're fresh recruits?
Well, I've never seen anywhere in the world where people who are recruited in state security services pay there, because you are offering yourself to serve your nation, and you're being asked to also pay for the training. It returns me to the earlier thing I said. You can't do policing by donation, by subvention, by augmentation, or in some way get people outside of the state to fund the police or another state institutions. Because what you will be encouraging is actually privatization of policing or transactional policing, where those who can afford it, where those who can pay. Because if we go by that logic, some of us who grew up in poor homes, if we are asked when we are going to school to pay some of these outrageous fees that you are hearing today, we would not have gone to school. So it should be people who want to join. I mean, because there are people who love the uniform services. If you listen to any of the senior police officers and the retired, what drew them to the institution was actually the discipline and the uniform. So when you have those genuine people who want to enlist, you can't charge them to come in, because that will be discouraging them.
You know, one wonders, I mean, from most of those research that you've done, published over time, what do you get as feedback in terms of the results? I know they complain about what they see out there, but do you identify those challenges? How do people actually feel if they're actually going to say, okay, maybe they're actually working on reforming those institutions, and it might have escaped maybe a lot of people too?
See, the bottleneck comes because if we also were to be fair to the government, is that these reports are collected by some people, turned into proposal of what should be done, and it will come back to procurement, implementation, which is where the whole thing is defeated. Because under Yaradua, we had the panel that was led by MD Yusuf. They set up an oversight committee, which is incidentally headed by President Jonathan when he was vice president. They are earmarked that they will be spending on average 300 billion every year over 5 years to get to the police to a state where it can, try to do its work. And all this, they made their funds available. In fact, under a Minister of Police Affairs, 7 billion was released to pay attention to 7 priority cities across Nigeria. At the end of the day, when the House proved that money, they could only trace importation of 100 dogs. So it comes down to implementation. They will always get to a stage, but where the system defeats itself is, do you give this contract to people who can do the work? And beyond procurement, do you also address the salient issues that are critical in improving police function? Because unless it involves billions, people are not interested, because it's not 10% or 20% won't amount too much. So to answer your question, yes, they take them seriously, but when it comes to implementation, we can't go and bid. I'm not a contractor. You can only recommend what can be done to improve situation. But when the system, through its own WAP procedure of contracting, ends up giving this job to people who knew next to nothing about it, what can you do?
So, okay.
Yeah, I was going to go back to the earlier question I asked you concerning funding. The reason I had asked that is because, we've done a report, or we're working on one, where, in the United States, for instance, where different states own their own police colleges, you know, policemen can move. It's seen as a career, more or less like a journalist, or like journalism, or like any other career, medicine, where you go to school and then you're taken by a police force, who can take you for further training.
Sure.
So, you know, those people who take that path usually pay something for their own tuition if they have not been taken by any police departments. So I was just wondering if any time in our own life we can actually get to that particular extent where people see policing as a career, that they're also willing to pay a part from their own earnings, you know, into their own training. Do you ever see us approaching that area?
I think we need to differentiate two complementary issues, but different in some ways. In the West, you can go to a university to study criminal justice, to study criminology, penology, and which prepares you for work in these services. But when they recruit you, they still have to take you to their own police academy, where the state or the city or whichever local department that is running that pays for people to. They may subsidize it, but in major police departments, say the New York Police Department, the LA, the Chicago Police, when you are admitted into the academy, you are not asked to pay, and it's usually for a 9 months period or 18 months, and you graduate. But then, when you have worked in one city or one state and have done very well, another city that is challenged by policing issues may recruit you after you have completed your service. That's why you have people like William Brathen, who have been chief of New York Police Department, LA Police Department, and they move around because of the track record that they have delivered. In fact, he was the one that was almost recruited by the UK government after the riot. But the police academy is usually funded by the state. But individuals can boost their knowledge of policing by taking courses in universities or colleges, which are then complemented by the police academy training when they go in.
You know, I go back to what I earlier talked about. We still have to go back and look inwards. And for some, they say it's not about funding, it's about the little that has been given to the police. We should be able to account for it. It doesn't show any money spent in that institution, and that's just not the only college we have for the police. So we have some others in Kano, a couple of others in Enugu, so spread across. So now this is just the one in Lagos, which was once upon a time the capital of the country. So what should we be talking about now? Because people have had some monies given to them to fix things in such colleges.
Yeah, for me, you need a two-pronged approach, which is where I applaud what you're planning to do tomorrow. You need to take steps to address these urgent needs and improve it. But then we also have to look back. Who are the people that have gotten this contract over the years? And we are talking about billions of naira, millions of dollars. What happened to those?